guys, how's it going? So I'm doing a full review on the Apple Vision Pro. I've had this for about a month now. I wanted to spend a lot of time with the Apple Vision Pro to see if the novelty will wear off and try to determine if I will actually use this $3,699 spatial computer. So there's been a lot of all the reviews out there and they've been kind of mixed. Some are very positive, some are very negative. But I really do feel that some of the more negative reviews, especially from some of those larger organizations out there, have been kind of mischaracterizing this device. So I'm going to explore that and also a little bit more. But first, let's start off with the build and the design. So I've used just about every single VR headset. I had the first Oculus Rift and then a local arcade open, and they had like all the latest headsets as they came out. And they always had them hooked up to the most powerful GPUs at the time. Some of them were just the regular Vive and the Vive Indexes and the Vive Pros, etc. And some of them were dedicated devices that I've never really seen before, where they were made only to run one specific game or one specific simulation. But I will say though, this is the most premium feeling of the bunch that I've used. But it's not really necessary for a headset. The primary intention of the build and the design is to be robust, light, and comfortable. Apple didn't really follow any of this. There's a lot of mesh design and it's reminiscent of the AirPods Max and the Apple Watch Ultra bands. But the entire frame is made out of aluminum and it's just really slippery. It makes me incredibly nervous when it's in my hands. I always felt like I'm going to drop it. The entire visor area is made out of a combination of glass and plastic, and it scratches really easily too. I've been taking really good care of mine, and this must have just happened when I was wiping it with a microfiber cloth and I got a scratch on it. It's hard to pick up on camera, but with bright lights, it's definitely noticeable. Honestly though, I don't really care too much about scratches. I don't think the scratches are really going to affect the performance of the Apple Vision Pro in terms of affecting the cameras on it. But I really hate that the entire glass visor is made out of a combination of both glass and plastic. I don't think that was very necessary, and it just makes me very scared to use this device. For the past month that I've had this, I have not felt comfortable with it. I'm just constantly feeling like it's going to break. It's going to fall down and break. And also, there's two pieces that are attached to magnets. So if you pick it up the wrong way, the entire headset's going to fall down. So honestly, it's not like you could see through that visor anyway. You're looking through cameras. And inside the glass, there's a display that indicates to other viewers if you're in pass-through mode or if you're watching content and can't see them. In the future, I wonder if they can just accomplish the same effect by using a dot matrix, if they can accomplish the same goal, because it's not like the quality of the display on the front is impressive or anything. I do kind of get that is kind of necessary, so you're not fully shut out from the people around you, so at least people can interact with you. Because if you're in pass-through mode, obviously you can see them because the cameras are pointing right at them. But if you're immersed in watching a movie or playing a game, I think it is important that people around you know that you can't see them. Thankfully, things start to get better when we look at the straps. Both of them are very comfortable, and to me, I have no issues wearing them for long hours, despite what all the reviewers are saying. Probably because I've been using it for longer than most of them, and I guess it probably just takes some time to get used to it. I remember when I bought my first pair of sunglasses. At first, I used to hate wearing it. It was really uncomfortable. It used to hurt my nose. I always felt it on my face. But then after a while, I just got used to it and I just ignore it. Now I don't even notice them anymore. And I'm not saying that wearing the Apple Vision Pro is like wearing sunglasses. It's far from it. But after a while, I had no problem using it for a few hours to catch up on some shows, watching some movies, or just living life in VR. I prefer the default included strap that comes with it because I can hang it over my neck when it's not in use. The dual loop band is much more comfortable though. And if I was going to be using the spatial computer for a long time, like on a flight, I would use the dual loop. Okay, so on to my first major con with the Apple Vision Pro. This battery pack needs to go in Gen 2. It's not so bad when you put it in your pocket, but it's a pain to always have to carry it around. And it really makes me feel like I'm beta testing an engineering sample or something of the Apple Vision Pro. There's a few times that the cable gets snagged on doors or it falls out of my pocket when I'm sitting down because the aluminum shell is so slippery. And just having this cord dangling everywhere is just annoying. I know this is a first gen product, so I do expect some kinks. I did eventually get used to it, but I think Apple really needs a solution for the second generation. They need to figure out a way to integrate it into the headset itself. Alright, enough of the hardware. I'm not an Apple fanboy by any stretch. I'm actually a very big critic of Apple. The phone that I've been using for the past month is the OnePlus 12. The laptop that I mainly use is an MSI gaming laptop. I only bought this MacBook so I could do some other testing and get some other Windows laptops and to test the Vision Pro out while using this Mac, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. My smartwatch is a Garmin. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I'm about to start fanboying hard. It is going to sound like I am the biggest Apple fan, but I'm not. First of all, I want to talk about the video pass-through. Of all the VR headsets that I've used, this is by far the best implementation out there. And that's pretty much when you put on the headset, you can see everything in front of you, kind of like your eyes, but it's not like sunglasses where you're actually seeing what's in front of you. With the Apple Vision Pro, you're actually seeing a video feed in front of you and you're actually reacting to that. And I'll tell you guys, it's incredibly convincing. And there's a lot of reasons why it works so well. First of all, the video capture from Apple is fantastic. Just look at the viewfinder of any iPhone versus any other Android phone. It processes high quality video live, and thanks to an exclusive chip on the Apple Vision Pro, it does that in under 12 milliseconds. And they've done studies. The typical human reaction time is about 150 milliseconds to 200 milliseconds. So the fact that this is 12 milliseconds means that things happen in real time when you're using the Apple Vision Pro. So that's why you can walk around freely, do basic tasks, catch objects when they're thrown at you, and just be able to live your life once you're in good lighting. The next reason is the sense of depth. Looking at videos on your phone or a laptop is in 2D, but in the Apple Vision Pro, it's true 3D. And it doesn't look like mediocre 3D TVs that you used to see back in the day, or even 3D movies in movie theaters. Things actually look 3D. There's a good sense of depth, and you can be able to look into the distance and be able to tell how far away something is. It's crazy how real this pass-through looks. And third is Apple's HDR video processing. You get a very wide dynamic range on the camera where you're able to see shadow details, highlights, and nothing ever really looks overblown or overexposed or where shadows are completely crushed. Now, it isn't perfect by any means. In low light, things start to fall apart a bit. Motion blur isn't perfect the way our eyes see motion. And things in VR just don't look as colorful as vivid in real life. And that has to do with both the camera and the display. I'll get into the display in a second. But another issue with the camera is text isn't very sharp. And on some screens, you'll start to see flicker. It's not nearly as bad as some of the other reviewers have mentioned, specifically The Verge. Actually, when I was looking at Nilay Patel's review on The Verge, I canceled my original Apple Vision Pro pre-order. He just really made this product seem very negative. He also mentioned that we see 50% more colors than what the Apple Vision Pro can replicate. And I mean, while maybe that might be true on paper, but there's more to that in real life. It just really isn't that simple. The missing colors that aren't being picked up are like subtle gradients and tiny color shifts you may see in shadow details and different shades of colors. So say that you're looking at 3 different brand logos that are blue. There's slight differences in that hue. You might not be able to pick it up in the Apple Vision Pro, but you'll be able to pick it up in real life. But it's not like the color blue looks pale or washed out because it's quote unquote 50% less. And also the image he showed had those purple chromatic aberrations are kind of bogus too. Yeah, it's there, but you really have to like move your eyeballs all the way to the left or the right to really make it out. And no one's really doing that in real life. I really feel like he really overblown that. And while there are other VR headsets that have a wider field of view, this is plenty wide. I'm not saying I don't want more in future revisions, but this is plenty wide enough. It's able to encompass most of my actual field of view. Yes, there's a little bit to the sides, which is usually where my peripheral is. I haven't really felt like I was missing out on that. I mean, but like I said, I'm not saying that there isn't any room for improvements. Looking at my actual MacBook screen, the MacBook does look better than the Vision Pro, and same when I look at my OLED TV. But the pass-through in the Apple Vision Pro is remarkable nonetheless. And the resolution is nuts. It's almost 4K per eye. There's no other VR display out there or any type of headset that I've used that has that high of a pixel density. And it really makes a difference. And that's really what makes the Apple Vision Pro start to stand out from the rest of them. I mentioned earlier that it's hard to see text. A lot of that is because of the cameras. The cameras do have some room for improvement. But when you're looking at dedicated apps on the Apple Vision Pro, they look crisp and sharp, and video and movies look incredibly clean and clear. Some of those Apple immersive films that you can look at on the Apple Vision Pro, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any screen recordings of it because Apple blacks that out when you do a screen recording for copyright reasons. But there's a few scenes, like with the one with Alicia Keys. I can make out details on her clothes, on her hair. It really feels like she's right next to me. So that's overall the display and the video pass-through on the Apple Vision Pro. I spent way too much time talking about that, but it really deserves the attention that I gave it. So another piece of the puzzle that just makes this entire package come together is the software. So now let's talk about the OS. And this is something else that's jaw-droppingly awesome too. It's intuitive and incredibly easy to use. I gave a few of my friends a demo of it, and at some point I just stopped, I guess, training them on how to use the Apple Vision Pro. They just picked up on it really quickly and just ran with it. Again, it's first gen, there are room for improvements, but what we have now is way above anything else out there. And I'm sorry, Meta Quest 3, it is a better operating system than that in its current state. Just the way that when you put an app somewhere, it stays put. There's no wobbly, weird software glitches. And for the most part, and there is some room for improvement, the hand gestures and the eye tracking works very well. Not always, but I think some of it might still be because this is a brand new input method. There's still some training on my end. I remember the first time we started typing with touchscreen keyboards versus physical keyboards, there was a bit of a learning curve. And I feel like there may be with the Apple Vision Pro too. But also I think a lot of this could get better with software. But I also think that a lot of this could get better with future hardware revisions too, as we get better sensors and cameras and better retinal scanners, etc. So again, very first generation, but they're handing us an incredible first generation. But overall, like once you use this for a little bit, just being able to move apps around, being able to look at something and then complete the action just by tapping your fingers together, just after a while, like you don't even think about what you're doing. Your brain just intuitively just starts completing whatever actions you want to do in that moment in time. So that's the type of tech where it just bleeds into pop culture, where you don't have to take a training course on it. You don't have to look at YouTube tutorials. It just instinctively works. And again, that's what makes the Apple Vision Pro a cut above everybody else in terms of the VR space. A lot of them do have video pass-through, but you're relying on a controller, or you have to learn specific inputs. Okay, so now what can you actually do when you put on this headset? Well, there's 3 use cases I want to cover. Oh, I didn't even talk about the speakers yet. They sound incredibly convincing as well, and I know that's like my favorite word of this entire review, but there's a lot going on here with the speakers. There's a 3D effect to the audio that sounds like it's coming from the actual source. So if I'm watching a video right in front of me and I look to the left or to the right, the sound stays where the app is pinned. So if I was to play this new Mr. Beast video,
Marcus is a connoisseur of anything that's
I'm
free.
recording from the headset too, so I'm going to fuse the audio sources together. So I'm looking at the screen, and then as I walk away, if you're using headphones, you can hear that the audio is now coming from the left, and it's incredibly convincing. There's a combination of head tracking there and Apple's spatial audio. I believe they may be using Dolby Atmos in conjunction with head tracking to achieve this in such a convincing manner, but man, it works really, really good. But anyway, watching videos and movies, this has been my favorite use case. Being able to stretch the screen out to a massive 200-inch equivalent screen while having nearly a 4K resolution at 92% DCI-P3 screen with relatively high brightness has been amazing. I haven't been able to go back to watching movies on my regular OLED TV or my laptop since. It's the only way I want to catch up with my TV shows now. It doesn't look as good as the best HDR TVs out there, like my Samsung QD OLED TV, but I still prefer the Apple Vision Pro because of the massive scale of the display. It'll cost me like $10,000 to get a TV that's the equivalent of this size. And that kind of brings me to my main con though, is there's no inputs on this. I think it's kind of a crime that Apple didn't include a display port on the Apple Vision Pro. I would really love to connect my Steam Deck to it, my gaming laptop, maybe even my iPhone. All I do is just keep on fascinating how great it would be to play PC games at 4K resolution on this 200-inch screen. Yes, you can use Steam Link, but that's just streaming, and streaming just still kind of isn't a viable option for me, especially when you're streaming using Steam Link at its 200-inch display. You do start to see some of those artifacts that are caused by streaming, and the input latency is still kind of high on that. It just really it makes me very annoyed that I spent $3,700 on this product and I'm only limited to Apple's services. So I think that really sucks, and that's kind of why I want the competition to catch up, so I can have some more freedom in my choices. I would choose another brand over Apple any day if I can connect my own devices. But once you start watching videos in the Apple Vision Pro, it really makes it difficult to go back to a traditional screen. The only problem is though, it's not really shareable. I could still be with company, but then just be able to put on my Apple Vision Pro and I can watch whatever I want. But like something like the Super Bowl or the Grammys where people want to watch together, unless everybody has a $3,700 Apple Vision Pro, I wouldn't recommend selling your TV for this yet. Okay, the second use case is productivity. Turning your MacBook into a gigantic 4K screen has been amazing. The only problem is I don't use Macs. Again, coming back to the Apple closed ecosystem. But if you do use a Mac, you're in for a treat. It's really amazing how well it just works. After an initial setup, you just look at your Mac to connect it. I compared a website on Safari on both the Apple Vision Pro and on the MacBook, and I really can't see any difference in terms of the visual quality. The only thing worth mentioning though is that the MacBook screen is only limited to 60 Hz, while the MacBook Pro has a native display of 120 Hz. And also, the MacBook becomes an input device for the entire Apple Vision Pro. You just look at the app you want to interact with, and then you can use the trackpad or use the keyboard for typing. It's brilliant software. So it's just like smart software that Apple is good at. I know I complained about a closed off system, but then those are some of the benefits. So the only thing that might affect some people is the long-term comfort. I mean, if you're sitting down for an 8-hour workday, I don't know if you'd be able to handle that in the Apple Vision Pro. I've been able to do it like 3 hours consecutively. So I know the battery doesn't last 3 hours, but all you do is just take a battery bank, plug it in, you just take both of them with you. It's not a big issue at all. So you could have indefinite battery life. So I tried to edit a video and it was fine. It was pretty good. But what I really enjoyed was using Excel on this, and having such a large screen for gigantic Excel spreadsheets has been great. And the fact that you could put a whole bunch of apps all around you, above you, below you, to the left, to the right, multitasking just really becomes only limited by your imagination. God, I know that sounds pitchy, but it really is. And then the third is just kind of using it as just a device to pass time and just to live my life in. So I ran a few errands once and I took the Apple Vision Pro, and it took some time for me to get used to the fact that I'm in public wearing this very unusual headset and people aren't used to seeing it yet. But once my mind adjusted to the fact that, you know what, I don't care what people think, I'm using the Apple Vision Pro, it became a great tool too. So being able to have a few Safari tabs, you could have TikTok on one side, you could have Twitter on another side, and then you could have limitless Safari browsers open. I was watching YouTube, and honestly, I was just sitting down waiting for my car to be finished washing, and they take a long time because they do a good job at this place I go to, and time just flew by really, really quickly. It's just a lot more comfortable looking freely wherever you want than to be like kind of hunched over on your phone the entire time. If we could get used to that in the future, maybe that might be less rude than having a conversation with someone while just looking down at your phone. I don't know. it's too early to tell. We'll see how society adapts to technology like this. And that's also if technology like this does become mainstream. And I think it could be. This first generation wouldn't be. The headset's too big, it's too clunky, and obviously it's too expensive. But, I mean, things are only going to get better from here. I think in the future, we're going to start to see more powerful hardware while it's smaller and cheaper. And once we start to get into that territory, I can start to see this as a tool that people use in their daily lives. So I could spend all day talking about the Apple Vision Pro, but I just kind of wanted to do a review on this and then we'll go from there. So if you guys like this video, like it. If you want to see more content with the Apple Vision Pro, or if you just want to see me talk about other tech, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.